So today I am going to be talking about a certain special opening. I'm going to talk about the opening I used in the 2015 Creator Invitational against Colossus. And the first thing you'll notice is that I really messed up early a little bit. Oh, what is this? I swear every time I deliberately set my dashboard on Twitch to not do that, but then it did that anyway. Anyway, so the opening I'm going to talk about is actually in our game it was like this, I guess. And in this opening, I'm going to talk about a special strategy oriented around this Far Knight's approach. And this opening is particularly for black, and really only with the 2-star points. You could try it with other variations, but I'm going to really just be talking about this setup. So in this opening, black plays a far approach because he wants to split the left-hand side. The idea is that black wants to move around the board more quickly, and so if he can settle on the left-hand side easily, then it becomes a very simple opening for him, and he can just cover more space. So the most expected response is this pincer, right? It adds pressure on these two stones, and it makes a nice extension from white's 4-4 point. But we're going to be looking at a particular counterplay to this. In this, you could, for example, jump here, threatening to play at f16 next. But since white hasn't really invested much on the top, this kind of move isn't that big, and it's not that threatening. So instead, we're going to be looking at c6. This move is aiming to make a kind of sabaki strategy. It's aiming to take away the points of white and try to, in part, since you're trying to play faster, it's aiming to take away the options white has. I'll first go over the variations that you'll probably see are most common. In my game against Colossus, he kicked here, and this is probably the most common response you'll see until you hit maybe 5 or 6 dawn, where people will stop trying to be all attacking oriented and actually consider the rest of the board. Nothing against Colossus, but I see this kick a lot, and it's not that great a move. Anyway, so after this kick, white has two options. In our game, white played here. I misplayed this. Black should invade here, and white plays down. White has some other options, and we'll go over them, but I'll go over the main line that I messed up first. In our game, I actually went to e2, which is a mistake. I don't know this corner just like e2 well, but I have since researched it pretty well. And so actually black should play here, and after white connects, black has a couple options. Black can either push at f3 or play at f2. In this case, either seems plausible. I think I would prefer f3 a little bit, but I'll go over the f2 variation first. White can push here. Black has to defend the cut. White jumps, and then black lives in the corner. And you can see that even though white has this wall here, having these two stones and helps mitigate any attack white can use this wall against these two stones up here. For example, white could try a leaning attack on black, or actually maybe here is more severe, right? White's trying to aim to take the top, and this kind of attack is actually fairly severe because after this, white gets a very nice approach and has developed the top pretty well. But actually, white can have a counter, or black has a counter strategy to this kind of shoulder hit. Black can attach here. Of course, if white pushes down, black can just take the stone. But now this wall has no base, so actually black can follow up on this. Let's say white defends here by putting pressure against white's stones. So it's actually not so great for white. That's why you might see white back off here. But then after black plays this, if white pushes, black can actually push up here. And after this exchange, white will cut this way to isolate the two stones. Black can play up, threatening to net the 3 stones like 3 stones, so white has to get out, or play something outward, maybe here, but then black can make shape, and you notice that the original attachment D9 is in a very good place. Now if white tries to exploit the weakness at D10, black can make a very nice tiger's mouth shape. There's actually a lot of variations here, but they all emphasize the same thing. White could also shoulder hit from the other direction, but the idea is the same. Instead of responding immediately, black will play here. If white cuts, black is happy to take the stone, and even this stone still has a lot of aji, right? Later on, black could play this hane. If there's potential to run into the center, this hane is still pretty valuable. So white might back off. Black defends, push, block, push, and this cut is a possible continuation. White again has to defend this net. It's not clear what the best way is, but at this point, white and black lives on white's side. These 3 stones are still able to run out and make life. White probably won't defend here, but instead either securing these stones and black runs into the center. White could approach here, and black will probably back off. Even if white develops the top, this Atari is very big later because it's threatening not just the corner but this stone, and the follow-up is this stone. And these 3 or 4 stones all have a lot of aji left in them. And in fact, you can notice that because of this exchange from the kick, black later could follow up by either pressing to force white to connect under, or descending if black is strong enough in the center to attack both groups. So this is probably just one line. The main idea though is using this stone at C6 as a way to make sabaki with these 2, and not responding immediately to any type of attack. White could also attack loosely like this, but it's pretty clear that these 2 stones are helpful in mitigating the attack. There was another variation here that I could have gone over. Instead of playing here, black can also push. White then has options of how to continue, usually hane, and then white will cut. Black defends, white takes, black ataris, and then black can tenuki, but this group could come under a little bit of attack from K3, so usually black will push, white will defend somehow. But then we notice that, it feels like white's invested a lot of stones here, and these 2 stones still have a lot of aji. They can run out here, or black can try to make some sort of sabaki with attaching if he settles these 2 stones. It's pretty difficult for white, and black can also just take a large point, and it's clear that black is moving around the board much faster than white. So we discussed this one space jump variation. There's not really any other options here. If black plays here, white can just push. Yeah, just push maybe. It's difficult to figure out how to defend, or black can also block. White has to come back here anyway, otherwise this push at E4 is really damaging. So there's not really much choice, and E4 is really the only move for white here. Okay, so instead of F4, you might think, okay, what if white plays F3? But the situation is not that different. Black actually has a very nice combination with this attach and cut. White can play here, and in this case, black hanes first. White plays here to deny black the Atari. And the Joseki is actually for black to connect at B6, locally anyway. And then white would defend, and then black goes here, and white usually defends, and then black, runs out, makes shape. But actually, black also can play this move at B7. Even if white Ataris, there's still this cut at C4, this cut here, that white has to worry about, so white has to defend this somehow, usually by backing off here. But then we notice, oh, black stones are all linked up on the left. There's still a lot of aji here. Black can pull a stone out at E5 later, so this is a pretty big success for black. And white's corner is not that big, it's only maybe 12 points, and there's still aji. Black's side alone is nearly 12 points, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 12, maybe 14 or 16 points. So, and it's pretty, black has a small, maybe 5-10 point lead this way, so it's pretty easy opening for black. So what if, instead of kicking, white just backs off? The same idea applies. Black just takes a corner and is just using the c6 stone kind of as a sacrifice to help the two stones above later. Black might play like this. If white tries to attack these, black still has this attachment. Pretty easy. White can also approach this way, but it's still, you just attach, back off, block, and you can push up. Usually this side. You know, if you back off, then this is even better for black, right? You get to break in, and these stones are not completely dead yet. This stone can still be pulled out. Black has a lot of aims here. It's a pretty nice opening. I really enjoy playing with it. There is, you know, some other variations you can play. What if white plays a large nice move? Black can still take the corner. And in this case, it's important not to play e3, because then white will hunt it on the inside. But actually, you can get a nice move with f2. If black blocks here, white blocks here, then you can just make this exchange and push out. White can hane, but then this cut is a little bit difficult. White has to defend. You have some peeps here. You can take sente. You know, a lot of options. So what if white blocks down at g2? Then black just pushes up, hanes, and this cut is very severe because the corner is solid, so now these two stones are in danger. It's a little bit difficult too because this stone can be pulled out, and c9 isn't at c8, so the aji is much more difficult for white to handle later if black gets this move. You know, in combination, it becomes more difficult to handle this cut. So there's a lot of things for black to aim at in this shape. So instead of this, white might hane on the inside, black blocks. Whoops, not there. This was, you know, preventing the hane here reduces the impact, reduces what black can do with c6, because before this clamp was annoying, now it's farther away. Black can't aim at that, but black has a very nice attachment here at h3. If white descends, black can continue descending. White can't descend any further, or black will cut, right, and capture white. So white has to connect. Black can escape out to the side, make solid points. This wall, because this stone is a little far, is still difficult to use, and it feels like black has maneuvered very nicely through the opening. Okay, so actually the best way to handle this kind of two-space pincer, one consideration might be instead of playing c9 to pressure black, is to back off directly at f3. Now if black plays elsewhere, when you pincer at c9, black can't really come in. White will just enlarge and threaten both sides immediately. So black doesn't have the time to make sabaki here like this. Whoops, not there. Right? If this happens, then even if black starts running out, white will turn his attention to attacking these two stones. And there's not this attachment or sabaki options for black in that case. So instead of playing elsewhere, black should defend against this pincer and the moyo that white's threatening, and then white can play elsewhere to develop the rest of the board. This is probably somewhat even, but it feels like black really broke up white's left-hand side, so it's difficult for white to make any kind of moyo type of strategy. So I don't know if this is the best way for white to play. Actually, what I think probably is most interesting for white is to approach here immediately. Then if you can get these exchanges, you know, black might play r6 to take sente, and then you have this tenuki joseki in the upper left. And at this point, white can just back off at c12, or white can turn here first. If you turn, it's pretty simple. The joseki goes like this, and is black's move. Black's move is outweighed by komi. And if you look at the board is pretty cleanly divided in half, so it seems pretty even and pretty easy to play. White can also play here. Black will definitely push to capitalize on white having Teneki. White might Hana, but actually white can black will make this exchange so that b16 is Sente later. But after this shape, again, it's black's turn, but the board is pretty evenly divided in half. Black might have a small edge, but you know, white has komi, black has the next move. It's pretty even. I think this is a more reasonable or easy way to play for white, and I think it's definitely a better choice than defending immediately. White could also pincer immediately. I don't think this variation is particularly good for white though, if you follow the normal Joseki. After this, black can immediately approach a c6, and the idea is the same. Black is trying to break up white's framework and make it hard for white to use the stones together. And if you look at the board even just now, black has 3 corners and white just has 1, and this wall here is not so easy to use. If white pincers, black won't take the corner or double approach immediately, black will attach. The aim is to make white over concentrated here. If you just back off, you play normal Joseki, at this point it's kind of difficult for white. Like, if you defend the corner, then black will cut. Your best option here is actually to play like this. Now that black can't get an eye, but it's pretty simple for black to just jump out. And white hasn't really made too many points here, maybe 15, and the bottom is still just a corner. But black has 2 corners and the rest of the board to develop on, whereas white can only really develop on the bottom. And it's from a low knight's move, so it's pretty difficult for white, I think. Oh hey, I haven't been looking at the chat at all. I'm sorry. Loving this review. Can I see Joe's? Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I wasn't looking at the chat at all. I have my viewer thing up, so I thought I was the only one here, so I was just kind of going through it and thought people would watch it on YouTube later. Let me go through these questions really quick, because that was pretty much the last variation I had anyway. There's one more variation where white just backs off here, and then black will double approach, and this exchange is good for white since it makes white over concentrated here. What are you guys talking about? It's 7:33. Your comments were at 7:24. Okay. Isn't G4 better than G3? G4? What was I looking at? I had G4 or G3. So the original variation is like this. Sorry, monk. Okay, isn't G4 better than F4 instead of F3, the Joseki after the kick? F4 and F3 are both possible. I talked about F4 at the beginning, but in both cases these aren't very good for white. Yeah, I got that. So in this case, white can play at C3, and this is actually what happened in my game with Colossus, but I really messed it up. Because after white descends at B5, black should peep at E3. In the game I played E2, and this really messed me up when Colossus played F2. But the Joseki is actually for black to play E3. And since you weren't here, I'll go over it quickly. After white can't really do anything but connect at E4. For example, if white pushes, this push is kind of difficult for white to deal with. Even if you take these stones, you'll lose the stones on the left and the corner, so it's pretty good for black. Black doesn't really mind making this exchange. So you basically always connect here. E2, then white is at F3 though, right? E2. Yeah, if you play E2, then white will play F. White can play F2 or F3. They're both possible. They just have slightly different meanings. But the Joseki, it's actually better for black to play E3 when you have this descent to B5. if there wasn't a kick exchange, then it's better then you can play e2 and it's okay. So after white connects, black can either run out at f3, and this emphasizes the side more, or black can play f2, and both are possible. Okay. If you play f2, white will probably make this exchange and then run out, and then black has to add a move to live. And in this case, it's difficult for white to really use his thickness, even though this group is kind of weak. For example, if you try to cap, black can make sabaki by attaching here. And if you do something even more severe like shoulder hit, black can still ignore it and attach. Even if you split, black's pretty happy to just make shape here. There's still a lot of aji in the c14 stone, such as the hana at b13 and such. Yep. So this is the line that I should have played with Colossus. The other variation besides f2 is to run out f3, and white will push and hana, and after this, white has to take the stone, but then black can run up. And usually h4 is pretty good because it limits the effectiveness of the influence and develops the right hand side. Black could also play elsewhere, but there is a possibility of a counterattack against this group, like at k3. Yeah. So, and if you look on the board, it feels like maybe this corner is split in half-ish, but black still has two corners, and black can develop a lot more than white. White at this point can only really develop along the top, whereas black can develop along the bottom, the side, and the top. So it seems favorable to black. And this was the kind of opening I was going for against Colossus. Actually, I don't think this kick is very good. I think just backing off is better. But either way, I feel like the variation is kind of favorable to black. The exchange white should play is actually just approaching, not playing on the left. Black is actually trying to bait white to play on the left more to make white overcommit on the left. And after black backs off, white slides. Then, or sorry, this exchange is earlier. If you play it now, it's possible to play it now, but it feels like after this, then black will just approach here, or take the top maybe. But even just approaching here is fine. Black's moyo on the left is about the same as the white's framework on the bottom. Or black's, yeah, this is still not completely solid, but black's territory on the left is about the same as white's on the bottom, but if you compare black on the right to white on the upper left, it's clear black has more. White would probably h2 rather than b3, no? h2 rather than b3. h2, oh, and way back in the other line. Sorry, I'm going kind of fast, and the delay is not helping. So I'm guessing you meant in this line somewhere. Probably this one. White would probably h2 rather than b3. Oh, I see. So after this, or here, playing h2 here, you don't see this much. My guess is actually black might Atari this way and then connect. Even if white captures the stone after black lives, black has a ladder breaker still. Or maybe just connect directly. Actually, maybe taking the stone isn't so bad either. I've never seen this much, but black gets sente after this, so black could run out with this group. And white will only have two corners, so white can no longer develop anywhere. Or black could put pressure and put pressure on the top to take the top side. This doesn't seem so bad for black. Even just taking a Sanransei with this Ponoki here is pretty strong. There's still a lot of aji for these guys to run, but maybe that sacrifice is too big. So instead, maybe Atari and then connect. Then this this move is sente, and then black can get this move in sente as a ladder breaker, and then black lives. It feels pretty good for black to me, if it's like this. White could try to go after the corner. But black looks alive to me. Yeah, black's alive. So the corner's still not dead yet. Sometimes you play here, but in this case the Tesuji at c1 doesn't work. Even after these exchanges, black can still live. I just felt if black had that 2-stone wall, it looked too good. Then that's true, but I mean both ways are possible. I think both ways are still good for black though. Especially if you can get this move as a ladder breaker in. It is a ladder breaker, right? Yeah. Maybe white doesn't capture. Maybe white tries to do something fancier. But in any case, if black doesn't need to spend a move here, which it looks like maybe he doesn't, the only thing you have to worry about is something like this. But even blocking here, I guess you can make a ko. No, it's not a ko. I guess it is. White'll, if black tries to go after it right away, white can hane here, and then after this it dies. So maybe black does add a move after white stops the ladder breaker. But even if black adds a move, it still feels like black has moved. Black took a corner. Black has a Sun Rensei formation. This corner is about the same as this corner. This is 9 points. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 10 points. So they're about the same. But black's position on the right and development potential, yeah, top and bottom is about the same. But the right is much better than the left for white. Yeah, seems good. Was there another comment earlier? Can I see Joseki if white pincers at c12 or d12? c12. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about at the end. So if white pincers at c12, black will just play c17. It's important here that white plays b17 first in these Ataris. If white plays d15 first, then when white plays b17, even though it looks like it'll turn into the same shape, black can actually cut here. And black's quite happy to get a strong shape here. White still needs to protect the top and then maybe develop here, but black can still turn and take the top, or black can tenuki, and black shape is very good. And the other pincer was... Oh, so let me finish this Joseki. So white Ataris, and connects. Black will usually play b18. If white is strong at the top, though, black can also play f17. White will make this exchange, though. The reason for that is, say, if white has stones at the top, then sometimes white can take away black's eye with e18, like this. So now d17 becomes a false eye, and black will be forced to play this exchange later. But this is only if white's